Welcome to Tétis University. Today we will be introducing an international student from HEC Paris. Welcome. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Edgar. I'm from the Netherlands and I'm doing the Grande École program at HEC. I started 3 years ago with the Master in Management. Then last year I took the gap year and now I'm doing the Major de Finance as my specialization.
What made you choose this particular field of study in HEC?
I've always been interested in business and I think studying management, for example, is a very nice combination between business and mathematics, and especially finance is even more mathematical. And that's something I really enjoy doing, where you can analyze businesses from a financial standpoint and then kind of like look how they're performing and evolving. I think that's super interesting. So that's why I decided to pursue this career path, so to say. And the reason why I decided to go to HEC Paris is because they have a very unique master management program, where first you do the master management, then you get the opportunity to take a gap year. This is depending on how much professional experience you already have. And then after that, you can decide which major to follow. So I decided to do the Major de Finance, but other people will do other majors, for example, strategy or marketing. So you can still, while you're studying, influence the trajectory that you're going to take with your studies.
How did you discover HEC?
During the second year of my bachelor, COVID-19 hit, of course, and that was all very sad, especially in the Netherlands. We're all in lockdown. It was rainy, it was winter. And to keep myself motivated, I just set a very ambitious goal for myself. So I started to look at master universities that I could go to and that I would want to study at. And then I came across HEC, which is, of course, a very well-known university. And by setting this as a goal for myself, I kind of set like a point on the horizon that I could draw motivation from and keep studying even though we were in lockdown and even though it was winter and we couldn't see friends. So that's I guess how I kind of work towards this goal, or have been working towards this goal for quite some time.
Why did you choose to study in France over other countries?
So I think France is a very nice country. It's somewhat comparable to the Netherlands, even though we are a bit more towards Germany in terms of culture. But I think it's a very pleasant way of living here. So that's definitely influenced my decision to come here. But then, as I mentioned before, the program that HEC offers with like the master in management, master in like finance, if you decide to do that with the gap year, I think that's super unique and you don't really have that somewhere else. So that's for me the main driver to come to HEC. And I mean, France is a very nice country, but I think the main point here is the university.
Did you had any expectations before coming to France?
Yes, I knew my French was not very good. I did have French lessons for 2 years in high school, but it was like 6 years ago, so I knew that I had like some work to do. And I think the integration part was kind of something that I was worried about a little bit. But when once I arrived on campus, everyone is kind of like in the same situation. You're there by yourself. You don't really know anyone else most of the time. And you're all there to make friends as well. So once you arrive and you speak to all these people and you're out there, you're being social, everything will fall into place quite quickly.
So how did you apply to this program?
So for me, it was during my exchange semester in Stockholm. So I was doing a 6 months fall exchange period there. And I used this time to prepare for the GMAT, to get all the documentations ready. And after I returned to the Netherlands, which was in the end of December, I submitted my application. Then I think in February there was like the interview process, and then in April they gave me the go that I was admitted to HEC.
So what kind of documents or tests you needed to submit?
Yeah, so the GMAT is a big part of it, which requires a lot of effort, a lot of studying as well. It's not something I like to do. The test is quite complicated. It's also not super fun to study, especially the language part is not really my cup of tea, I would say. The maths exercises are more interesting in my personal opinion. So that was like 6 months of prep went into that. Then I also had to get 2 recommendation letters, one from a teacher or academic professional and one from a professional that I worked with, for example, in an internship. And then there was a final thing that I needed to do, which was to prove that I had the sufficient English level to be admitted to HEC. But because my bachelor was fully done in English, this was quite easy and they could testify that my English level was sufficient.
How would you describe the program overall?
So the first year is very generalistic, where you get a lot of background about businesses. And sometimes if you're from a business background, you can waive certain courses and then you can choose electives instead. So that's very nice because you can kind of tailor your own program to what you think is interesting. And then the gap year, most of my friends went to different countries all across the world to get professional experience. And then this year, a lot of people came back, and then you hear all the stories from them, how their experiences were. And this year's kind of unique because a lot of friends decided to do different majors. I did the major in finance, as mentioned before, and now I'm specializing in this and like really honing into like all the nitty-gritty details that there is to know about like the financial sector and regulation and stuff like that.
Can you tell me more about your gap year?
Yeah, so during the gap year, I did 3 internships, 3 different companies, very unique in terms of company size. So one was a bit smaller, one was a bit larger, and it's very interesting to see the differences between the firms and how they operate. I think that was quite a unique experience, and also that it's so encouraged by HEC to really take this opportunity and go and do these internships. In the Netherlands, that's not really common from a university standpoint. So that was super nice, and I learned a lot from that. And I think coming back now, having done these internships, it's such a value add because you really grow during a year of professional work experience, and you can directly apply that in your field of study. And since I now decided to specialize in finance, you have seen the things during your internship, so you are actually eager to learn more about how things are done. And because you've seen it in practice, you really want to learn it. You're like intrinsically motivated, and it's not like, oh, this course in marketing that I have to do that I'm actually not that interested in. But now, because you can like choose your own major and you've done the internships, you really learn a lot.
So, which classes were the most important ones?
I think all classes add something to your luggage, so to say. Everything is important because if you're working and someone is talking about something that you have never heard of, for example, regulation might not be my most interesting topic or might not be my passion, but it's important to know because you need to be a well-rounded professional to succeed in business, I guess. So yeah, I think all courses are equally as important. But personally, I really like, for example, valuation courses, so corporate finance, stuff like that. But that's more of my personal interest.
Could you tell me about a project or subject that you have worked on recently and that really marked you?
Yeah, so recently there was a project that kind of like mimic what I would be doing in business life as well. So it was a group assignment that was structured in 3 deadlines. So during the first deadline, we had to submit specific information, and then after passing the first deadline, you would get more information from the professor, and based on that information, you kind of had to adjust your analysis. And I think something like this, where you really try to mimic what you'll be doing in your day-to-day job, I think that's super cool, because then you really like see what it's like, and you see the different perspectives of the other students as well. And because you don't talk with the other students that you're competing with, you kind of get like this competition that you also see in business. And I think that was super interesting to see and experience.
So, what does a typical academic week look like?
Yeah, so I think the M1 academic week is quite different from the M2. During my M1, the Master in Management, on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoon you don't have classes. And I should say does this to promote sports. So there are sports clubs that you can go to. For example, I was part of the rowing club, so every Tuesday and Thursday I would go row on the Seine. And then I would have classes Monday, Tuesday morning, Wednesday, and like the whole week, approximately 20 hours of class with a professor. And then it's mainly self-study, I guess. I think most of the courses at HEC are structured in a way that there is some sort of group assignment. So if you don't have classes, you'll be working on something like that. That was the M1. M2 was a bit different, especially the first half of the year was quite intense in terms of workload because there were, 1, a lot of classes, and 2, you needed to do a lot of applications, especially in the Major de Finance, where all the applications opened quite early on in the year. This took up like a lot of time from all the students. In the second half of the year, it became a bit more chill because most of the people have found internships yet. The courses were also, there were less hours, and that made it a bit more balanced, I guess.
What do you think truly makes a difference into succeeding in this program?
I think for me it's very much about teamwork, and that's not only in group exercises, but it's very much also when it comes down to studying. For example, when there's an exam week, you kind of lock yourself up either in your room or in the library. I prefer to go to the library because it's very much a social scene. So you go there, you study, but then you take a 15-minute break with people and you just quickly have a coffee and you chat about like how it's going for them, and you kind of like exchange a bit of information like, hey, how are you approaching this? Do you have any tips? And often you just take a classroom, you sit down together and speak about the subject matter. You can try to do everything by yourself and learn everything yourself, but by collaborating it's so much easier, because if you know a bit more about one subject and you can share that with a friend and he does the same thing about like a subject that you are like less interested or like less knowledgeable about, that's the way to succeed, I think, I should say.
Can you tell me more about the differences between the academic approach, like how are the teachers and the classes?
So I think I should say it's very different from what you would normally see in the Netherlands in terms of academic approach. I should say it's very practical. They have very strong roots and connections to business life. So there's a lot of professionals coming over all the time that are speaking about what they are seeing and what the current trends are in the market. And I think if I look at the Netherlands, it's a bit more academical. So there's a bigger focus on trying to get students to do a PhD, I guess, even though most of the students are not actually interested to become a researcher. So the teachers are super accessible. We can just send them emails after class. They're always willing to sit down with you, have a chat about the subject. They're often very passionate about it as well, so it's fun to speak to them, and then they are also happy to share information with you. So they're very, very accessible.
What were the key administrative steps that you needed to take when you arrived?
So one of the first things I did was apply to CAF, because your application counts from the moment you submit it. Another thing I did was open a bank account, which was actually super easy because HSC has very good relationships to all the banks, so they come to campus and they actually help you with the opening of the bank account. So that was quite smooth. I didn't need a French phone number since my Dutch phone number still works here in France. So that was great, and I needed to get housing insurance. There is a very important deadline if you want to get housing on campus. It's first come, first serve. So if you're going to HSC, keep an eye on your email box during the summer. But if you're a first-year student, you are guaranteed a spot. But for second-year students, that's a bit tricky.
Did you face any challenges during this process?
I guess the biggest challenge I often have is the language barrier. There's a quite fun example for this. I had to call a specific phone number and they had one of these dial menus where you had to like choose certain options. But then a certain step in this process was that you had to speak your question out loud into the microphone, in French, of course. And I just couldn't pronounce it correctly for it to pick it up, so it was horrible. So then I often like just ask friends that speak French to help me. So eventually it all works out, but sometimes you have to plan ahead a little bit and ask them for support.
How did you manage the transition between your home country and France?
I think France is a very nice culture to integrate in because it's a very enjoyable way of living. So getting a coffee with friends, going for a beer at the terrace if the sun is shining, those things are a super clear way that French people are really enjoying life. And that's super nice. For example, we have this canteen at the university where we often go for lunch. And then you just sit down with friends, you talk a bit about the subjects, about things that you're doing, about your weekend plans. So yeah, no, integrating was super easy. But I guess that's also partly because you're all living together on this campus and you're fully immersed in like the HSC life.
Have you ever felt homesick?
Not per se homesick. It's more that I notice that I'm just not present at home. And with that, I mean life at home just continues. So my little brother's growing up, my sister's growing up. And while I used to be present all the time when he was in high school, now he's in his final year of high school. And normally he would always come to me for questions. And now, I still like support him in everything he does. But you notice that you're just not there with him. But of course, we still have a great relationship and I call him like all the time, my sister as well. But you just notice that you're not there. It's not that I'm longing to go back, but it's more for them life continues as well. So, I mean, that's something I notice.
So, how did you adapt to student social life in France?
I think the students' social life at HEC is particularly quite strong because you're all there together on campus. With regards to social life in general, we go to Paris almost every weekend with friends to go to musea, go to bars. So I think it's very active, the social life I'm having at least. And then with regards to HEC, a bit more specific, as you might know that it's quite far outside of Paris, so there's not much there except from buildings. So we have to make everything ourselves, which is a challenge, but it's also super nice because you can really shape your own student experience. So there's a lot of associations, both social and professional ones. So we have, for example, the investment club. We have a lot of associations that represent countries. We have a wine association, a sailing association. As mentioned before, HEC is very big on sports. There are very nice sports facilities on campus, a rugby field, tennis courts, baseball courts. They have a very nice sports hall as well with a climbing wall. So there's a lot to do. And I think that's also what influences my week. So you're working all the time, you're doing your study things, and then after that, you either hang out with friends or you do things for associations, which can be analyzing an investment pitch for the investment club or a professional event where there's speakers coming to campus to recruit as well, but also to tell a bit about what they are doing in their sector. And if you're not doing that, you might throw an event that represents something from your country. For example, you do something with your cuisine. So it's very active. It's not uncommon that you have to cancel events because there are multiple at the same time.
Was it easy or challenging to connect with others, and especially French people?
I think since everyone is moving to campus, it's quite easy to connect with people in general. French people, because they have already been on campus for like a year, because they did L3 at HEC, they know each other already quite well. Therefore, the network is a bit more closed in the beginning, but a great way to connect with them is through sports. So personally, I was part of the rowing association, and that way I got to learn them a bit better. But yeah, since everyone is on campus all the time, you're super social. And then with regards to the internationals, because you're all coming from abroad to live on this campus, which is, as I mentioned, quite a bit outside of Paris, you're forced to be social. Otherwise, you're just in your room doing nothing. So no, it's super nice and it's super easy to make connections.
What are your plans for after your graduation? And are you staying in France? Are you moving around? Tell me.
I'm going to London. I'm going to work in the financial sector. Very much looking forward to this. I would have liked to work in France as well, but due to the language barrier, this might be difficult, especially since you're advising clients and you cannot really guarantee that the client knows how to speak English. So I guess that's why I decided to move to the UK, which is another nice step in my journey. As you might have guessed, I like to be in an international environment. I figured this out while I was doing my exchange semester, and now in France and in the UK.
How has studying in France shaped your personal and professional goals?
So I think there are two things to this question, I guess. One is my personal development and one is my academic development. I think HEC is a very good university and they prepare you very well to enter the business world. Because they're a bit more focused on practical things and not as much on academic, they really prepare you to succeed later on in your career. That's, I guess, one point of the answer. Then the second point is my personal development. I think if I look back 3 years, I was a completely different person. Back then, I only studied abroad for like 6 months. And now, after having lived abroad for 2 years and doing like 12 months of internships, that really changed me as a person. And I think I've grown incredibly over the past couple of years.
If you could change or improve anything in your experience, what would it be?
So what I would like to improve about my current program is the fact that during your first year, I should say, schedules around the sports, and during the second year they didn't. So you kind of have to figure out yourself if you're going to be able to participate in, for example, the rowing club. And that's something was kind of unfortunate because I really enjoyed going to the Seine. I still do rowing in the gym on an erg, but it's not the same as really being on the water. And that's something I really liked during the first year and unfortunately couldn't keep up during the second.
And lastly, if you had any advice for a student that dreams about HSC or France?
I guess for the students that are applying, I would advise them to reach out to us. We're all super approachable. You can often find us on LinkedIn. Just shoot us a message, and we are more than happy to have a call, sit down with you, maybe do a mock interview that we help you prepare for the interview that you're going to have with the academic affairs of HEC. For the people that are coming to HEC already, I would advise you to make the best of it. It's 2 years, but the time passes like so quickly. Be social, be out there with friends, because the friends you make at HEC are really like lifelong friends. So try to really make the best of it and enjoy every moment.
Thank you very much for your testimony, and see you soon after this.